how, I'm so scared.
It's good. No, it's not that hot, I
I
promise.
feel like it's really easy. My tongue is flopping off of my body.
Mine is too. So...
No,
Welcome to Wings with Wayne, the show where sovereignty gets spicy. I'm your host, Wayne Ducheneaux. Welcome, Alexandera Houchin. It's a great honor and privilege to have you here. You are a Cohort 12 rebuilder, a citizen of the Fond du Lac band of Chippewa. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, first off, thanks for having me here. I'm super excited. I can already smell my wings. I was already intimidated by like the super hot sauce here. Yeah, like you said, I'm a Cohort 12 rebuilder, and recently I am working or riding as a full-time professional bike racer, which is still super weird for me to say. But I also do like freelance writing with a W. It's really hard to talk about like being a writer and a rider. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now outside of the rebuilder stuff.
And let's grab a wing. This is going to be Zab's hot sauce.
Zab's?
So,
can we cheers the wings before you?
Yeah. Tell me more about your most recent race.
Well, I'm actually really nervous to eat these wings because I just finished a race 2 days ago.
What do you think? Not bad, right?
Super crunchy. Did you air fry these?
We air fried them.
Dude, that's magic. Like the air fryer, I just discovered air fryer. I was putting like zucchini and tater tots and tried to make tortilla chips. And
tater tots are the best.
They are the best.
So the race you just wrapped up, 391 miles, through pouring rain, through switching temperatures.
I was the only lady to sign up, and I won, which is really a big deal because I've never like won a race outright. And technically, like I only won because every single person quit, but it was really hard, and it took almost every part of my being to not quit.
Yeah.
I'm the only one, actually.
Well, right on. Cool. Let's jump into the next wing. Are you ready?
I don't know. We'll have to see.
Okay. I'd love to hear a little bit more because technically, I think what you're called, right, is an ultra endurance cyclist.
Yes.
And tell us about that world of ultra endurance cycling.
Okay, so I totally cheated and looked at the bottle, but I was like, that tastes green. Like as
green.
If a green spicy was a feeling, but.
And it's mojito? 3 flames out of 5.
3 flames. My first bike tour actually was a trip from Madison, Wisconsin, where I was living and working, all the way up to the reservation. It was my first time going home, and I thought it was really important to do on my bike. And then I kept bike touring, and I kept wanting to go further and over bigger mountains and try new things. And I started showing up to these ultra races as a way to bridge my love for bike touring and fulfill my need for having community who understood the thing that I loved the most.
What do you want to talk about your mom and everything?
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's up to you. I don't know if you're...
I love my mother, and you know, sometimes I feel guilty and embarrassed for like the ways I didn't see her. My mother was a teenage mother, and in the early 1970s, which is sadly, it's not uncommon, but my mom was removed from our tribal community and placed with a non-native family off reservation. I spent a really long time mad at my mom for not being the mom that I wanted her to be. You know, I wanted her to be the mom that baked cookies like all the other wealthy at-home moms.
Yep.
But my mom worked in a factory to provide for us. And so as I started learning about federal Indian policy and started my own journey, I began to understand that less of those things about my mother were her own doing, and that she is such a badass, strong, surviving woman, and she survived so that I get to thrive and you know, have experiences like this. I got to go to college, I get to race my bike, I get to tell stories, and it's because of all the work all those who came before me have done. So guess what, we're still here, and we're still independent, sovereign nations, and I feel a lot of power and identity from that, knowing that.
Brendan, I think that's somewhere I completely resonate with you on. And when I think about the scope of federal Indian policy and how people don't understand, like, sovereignty for Native peoples is everywhere, right? So it's intertwined in economic development, it's intertwined in infrastructure development. It's oftentimes, people don't realize, in the recreation space as well, right? And so you're traveling to the Native nations, they have these beautiful lands. Tell us a little bit about how increasing people's awareness around sovereignty in that world is important to you.
Yeah, and that's something I think about quite a bit.
Oh, let's have another one too.
Oh yeah.
No,
I made a horrible mistake of licking my fingers. So I was like, holy, that's hot. Like, what are you supposed to, I'm used to like Cheeto dust on my fingers. I'm like, I'm like,
watch your eyes, that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, that's good. Don't touch your face.
And this one's burn after eating, so be ready.
I think I'm a drummy.
Me too.
It's good. It's great. No, I'm kidding. It's actually still air fried and still delicious.
Good.
I spend a lot of time thinking about that representation and visibility for Native people, representation and visibility for Indigenous places, especially as somebody who races and rides and competes out west on public lands. That's a really hard thing to think about and talk about for me, because I don't even really know what to say or how to even bring it up or broach the subject. But like, the only reason we have these public lands, which I use and utilize and am so grateful for, but the only reason we have access to these places is because large swaths of Indigenous people have been removed from these places and removed from their sacred spiritual spaces. Oh, it's so spicy in my tongue, my little raw tongue.
Well, I think you're finding a terrific way to do it. The example, I read up on you right before we had our conversation. I Googled you. You may have had some help from people on the team to find this really cool article about you, and it talked about this race you entered that had this derogatory name towards, I think, there's some people in Kansas.
Yeah.
Right? And so, you were able to bring attention to that through your cycling.
My indigeneity has given me these other skills to tell stories and to build community and bring community together and to heal. I see that as a super huge gift and a privilege now. Wow, how fortunate. That's
the one thing I think about, is the wisdom in indigeneity, right? And then how, as we are going down these journeys ourselves, rediscovering our culture, rediscovering our language, and healing ourselves, we start healing our communities. And then as Indigenous people, we were people that we didn't keep those things secret. Like, right, when the first people came over, made first contact, they didn't know how to survive, they didn't know, we taught them the ways, right? And so one of my long-standing theories is that as we are rediscovering these selves about ourselves, as we heal ourselves, we're gonna heal the people around us as well. So, which is, really gets me excited to try this next wing. 7-pot scorn. If that last one is hot,
I'm getting scared. I'm super scared about this last one.
We can do this, we can do this. But I love how your conversation feels like you're bringing it full cycle. Pun intended. Pun intended, right? As you think about the future of Fond du Lac, like, what is your vision that you hope to help achieve? Really warm.
This one is so spicy. I'm like afraid to get my lips on it, like eating it like a baby. So my future for Fond du Lac really involves creating infrastructure for existing outside. I want single track trails where people can ride their bikes. I want to have events. I want to have a bike race in my community. I have this vision. I can invite all of my cycling community to come into our community and, have bike races, threshing rice, and people can ride the trails around our community. And I want Native people planning those things and building those things and doing it for ourselves.
And I love that about your story, because it's one of those things where I don't know if you even realize it yet, right? So when we talk about spirited leadership in Native nation rebuilding, right, it's that person who can identify change and bring community with them. And you saw a need out there, you saw what you thought you understood, but rather than trying to lead people aimlessly, you reached back out to the community. And you said, what do you need? What is the thing we need, right? And that's the way to bring community along, is being informed by them. Because I just think that's a fantastic story about nation rebuilding, something you've been able to do on an individual basis at home.
And my tongue is flopping off of my body.
Mine is too. So
Good job. We only have one more.
One more?
I hope it's an easy question.
Nope. This one is, so we're going to think about esoterically, thinking back to Greek tragedy. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like really
what we're going to ask you for the last wing is, what's the weirdest thing that happened to you on a bike?
I'm so scared.
It's good. No, it's not that hot, I promise.
I feel like it's really easy. It's like jumping into a cold lake. I'm like, I don't want to. I know I don't want to. It's going to hurt.
More like jumping on the hot rocks.
I don't know how many weird things happen. And maybe it's just because I go to such weird places in my mind.
Yeah.
That I have a really hard time thinking about weird stuff.
Okay.
There's a lot of incredible things that happen, and it's mostly up here in your brain. It gets hotter the more time that passes.
It does. So not weird, beautiful things happen.
Yeah, existential. A certain amount of growth happens. And I can think about this most recent race where, I've been awake for about 70 hours.
Straight? Oh.
I physically was hurting so bad, and I was like, you are strong enough to keep going. And just like the way that me 10 years ago, how much I hated myself, how much I didn't respect myself, how angry I was, to getting to this point of being like, everything you are is enough and everything you are is okay, and this is special. So maybe not weird things, but powerful things happen.
That's almost a better answer to a really bad question. So I appreciate that so much. Well, Alexandra, thank you so much for sharing your story. Everything from telling us about being this endurance cyclist and how that world is affecting you. Thank you very much, Wopilatanka Miigwech, for sharing the story about your mother. I think that's something that is really going to sit with me. And thank you for being here today.
Yeah, Miigwech, thanks for the torture.
Anytime.